So this is gonna be another stupidly long video. I tried looking at doing something fancy with fast forwarding and so on. But don't worry, you can skip a lot of it. I will keep talking a little bit in the beginning here. I had the option to borrow a demo electric chainsaw. I've been quite curious about all the electrical stuff. I looked seriously at an electric car for a while, but came to the conclusion I don't care about my cars. They take me from point A to point B. Don't need any cleaning. But that electric saw, I decided to compare it to what the chainsaws I had. Normally I just used the little small steel.
Measuring tool from the 1800s.
The little small MS 200. It's about 5.5 kilos. That one was almost fully fueled up. There might be a little extra here and there in this video that's kind of unnecessary, but I'm not gonna change anything. I think it will mess up the timing on some of the stuff I've added later. The bigger 6.5 kilo, it's an old steel 026, hardly any fuel in it, and it's 5.4 kilos and 7.5 kilos, so it's about 1 kilo heavier than the one without fuel. So with that one fully fueled, they are probably quite close to it together. It's a Cramer. I will list the model number, and the battery is a 290. They have bigger batteries also, so this will be interesting. They claim it's supposed to be comparable to a 60cc chainsaw. The one I'm comparing it to, it's like a 50cc chainsaw that's old. It has been used for a lot. My dad spent a lot of years preparing firewood for the house for many years. Here we are doing a no-load RPM. I'm not sure how valuable that info is, but it gets up to 13,000 RPM with no load. The old chainsaw gets up to like 15,000 no load RPM. They both seem to use the same size drive sprocket, so the chain speed should be comparable to the RPM. This is not gonna be a very scientific test by any means. The chain on the gasoline powered saw was super dull, so it got the sharpening. The chain on the electric one wasn't like extremely sharp, but felt good enough. They felt comparable to each other after sharpening. It was fueled up. This is gonna be a comparison one battery versus one fuel tank. This is kind of a bad comparison. Yeah, we're working with the firewood that we process every other year or so. First little test, yes, it does feel quite strong, and I'm impressed. To be honest, I'm not super interested in the chainsaw itself, but the brush cutter. But towards the end of the video I will come to a few points. Yes, it's possible to get it to die if you push too hard, but you can do the same with the chainsaw if you just push hard enough. Initial test, you see here the timer runs up and I count the number of discs. It's not going to be super accurate because the logs are different size and so on, but the run time versus the disc will give you kind of a hint of what it is capable of. This is kind of a bad test because it's just full throttle testing. It's not like real life. You won't do this normally, but all the work I normally do is with the smaller, lighter chainsaw, taking care of windfall and trees and things like that. We compare the vibrations, sure it's zero when it's not running on the electric and the gasoline one, but once you have it up to rev and actually work with it, vibrations seems to be roughly the same. It's It's not something that would annoy me. I don't think they have any vibration dampening in the electric unit. They just have the handles mounted directly to the unit itself.
Några snabba tidtagningar på.
We did do a couple of quick
Det här
kind
är
of
ju lite för spets. Det ska ha gått upp.
time tests for cutting a disc, and they seem quite comparable. Here I overlaid the electric one. It's actually on the same log here. I think it was a little thinner at the end, and still the gasoline power one was a little bit faster, I think, so it might win out. But for the ease of not having to start if you're doing something small, and if I would buy the brush cutter at some point, you would kind of have to get the chainsaw also if you already have the batteries, because the batteries and the chargers and all of that is such a huge part of the investment. But more on that in the end. And to be honest, I think you can jump almost to the end now. Feel free to watch the entire video, but if you want to hear me talk and summarize the test of these two or this electric chainsaw, jump to 36 minutes. I will also discuss the brush cutter part a little more.
De är nog ganska jämförbara det där att gå på. Hur känns han vibrationsmässigt då, så här bara switcha mellan? Inte, han är ju inte vibrationsfri. Det här var ju lite sjuk i ni, han skulle ha varit såld egentligen.
If you have watched all of it, welcome back. Or if you just skipped here, welcome. If you watched all of it, you're probably screaming because I wouldn't be surprised if I messed up the counter at some point. But I don't think I will go back and fix it. It was a little more work than I anticipated, getting that counter to get going and the timer to start and stop and so on. So it is what it is, but as you can see the numbers, I'm close to running out of fuel here. So you can see that the gasoline powered saw, you get a lot more runtime for a fuel tank if it's high load work you're doing. And that when it comes into with the brush cutter, doing work that I did last summer with clearing undergrowth before thinning, where it's quite a lot of running and not as dense, an electric powered brush cutter would probably have been a good option. But everything I'm gonna tackle this summer is gonna be denser and more high load, and I guess I would be out of power a lot of times. I added the calculations, 5.3 seconds for each cut based on runtime and number of cuts, and 5.0 seconds to the electric saw was actually faster in this non-so scientific test, and I did cut dual logs if you watched all of the video for a while when they were thinner with the gasoline saw, so they are quite equal when it comes to cutting time while it has power, but it lacks out a little bit too soon. I have a project that might require stumps of wood. They went through the wood processing machine later, but that might be something for another video in the future. Did also put the brush cutters I have already, and I really like my Husqvarna 345 here. I've also seen, because I compare it to the steel that I also have that are comparable, but the Husqvarna here, it has a bigger tube and a shorter tube. It feels a lot more rigid. The longer the tube going down to the gearbox and the blade, I feel it gets floppy. They have rubberized vibration isolation also, but I'm not comfortable. And the electric unit that Cramer sale, it's kind of not specifically made for thinning in the woods. It's a combination machine for grass and so on, but it has the gearbox at the bottom suitable for a blade. But and even if it's comparable in weight, I feel like I'm gonna stick to my gasoline powered. Hopefully Husqvarna or Cramer in the future brings out a more dedicated forest electric forest dedicated brush cutter that might be a little more rigid. This one has a 32 millimeter tube going down, and the steel and also the Cramer only has a 28 millimeter. And for the steel, that's a dedicated forest brush cutter. I think that's, I can't remember the model, but it has a little bit of a longer tube, and you can see them hanging next to each other on the wall there, and they hang at roughly the same height for the handles, and the left one is longer, and I guess that gives you that floppy feeling. Part of it they might have softer rubber bushings and things like that also, but and it's quite a lot of money. But if you have the funds to add an extra electric brush cutter and chainsaw for the times they are suited, it might be nice to have, but I can't really justify the investment right now because I think I will just be annoyed using it with the work I plan for this summer. So I'm gonna hold on, and hopefully they will get both lighter, better, stronger batteries. Everything moves very quickly right now. So that's my opinion about it. So that's it. If you've enjoyed this and you have maybe been testing electric equipment in the chainsaw brush cutter department, please leave a comment. Link to another video if you've done something similar about something, other brands, other Cramer products or other brands. I enjoy having some feedback from viewers. Thank you.